Hi folks, Rob Gleaner, attorney, Robert A. Gleaner PC. I wanted to talk with you for a few minutes about where we are now, about 4 weeks into the COVID crisis here in New Jersey and of course across the whole country. I hope you're all out there healthy and safe, and we're going to talk about how landlords are handling the collection methods with their tenants. We need to balance the ability of landlords to collect their rents, but at the same time be sensitive to tenants, some of whom are having trouble paying their rent because of unemployment issues and other issues related to COVID. A few weeks ago, Governor Murphy signed Executive Order 106, which restricts the ability of landlords to remove their tenants from their properties for non-payment of rent. It does not restrict the ability to actually file for evictions. So I wanted to talk with you a little bit about the interplay between what that restriction is and how you can successfully still collect your rents. I represent a number of property management companies, and we have changed our collection methods a little bit, or I've suggested the changes in collection methods so that we have a little softer tone when we go out and ask the tenants why they haven't paid their rent. Even before this, the pandemic, there were certain what I would call frequent flyers of people who wouldn't pay their rents. And I spoke with one company, and it turned out that their collection rate wasn't that much different now from the time before the pandemic started and from the present time. Now, of course, that may change when May rents come around, but as of right now, it's about the same collection rate. What we did was, at my suggestion, was put together a letter that said you haven't paid your rent. If you haven't paid it, please call your property manager to discuss it in more detail and discuss your particular situations. And we even put in that letter some of the resources that are available to tenants in order to assist in paying rents. So that's the revised pay or quit letter. They would go out on a regular basis when rents aren't paid, either 5 days, 8 days. Different property management companies have different time frame. But in any case, that would go out to the tenants, and then hopefully they would contact their property manager and attempt to make a deal. Even when we were filing evictions, and even when I was in court, I would sit down with the tenants and try to make a consent order to pay. That is much more favorable to a landlord than having the tenant kicked out and having to start all over again, finding a new tenant. So we were always working with tenants in order to try to encourage them to pay rent. And now we're even working with them even more, even when they're not in eviction, in order to be able to encourage the tenants to pay their rents. Getting back to Governor Murphy's order, as I said, it does not prevent the filing of evictions, it only prevents the removal process. And the courts are essentially closed right now. They're not having hearings. They may open the courts sometime in May. It probably will be by video, some kind of Zoom conference. But in any case, the courts will begin to open up in May, hopefully no later than June. And at that point, there will start to be hearings on these removals. Now remember, the Governor Murphy's executive order does not allow removals for the next 60 days. So even though you can't remove the people, you could still file, you could still get your judgment, assuming the courts were open, and then you'd have to wait for the expiration of the 60 days in order to remove those people if they have not paid, or if you have not been able to get a consent order with them in order to continue their payments, continue their rent payments. So what I'm suggesting is, and I wouldn't do this until after May, the May rents come due, because we want to try and work with them through April. Then if they're really behind by May, you kind of see what's going on at that point with those tenants. You could file at that point, and then you're kind of waiting in line until the courts open. Once the courts open, then you can get your judgments, and then assuming that stay of removal is expired at that point, then we can start the removals if we have to. And again, I would suggest that even during that long period of time, if you can work out a deal with these people in order to pay, you want to do that. You don't want to have people removed, especially during a pandemic. It's better customer relations, so to speak, in order to work out these deals. And in the long run, it's going to be better for your landlords too. We've got a long way to go. We all got to work together. And I think in the landlord-tenant business, that's a good practice as well. So you got to look at a difference between what good practices are as opposed to technically what your legal rights are. We got to be practical about this whole thing. So the overall picture here is be as sympathetic you can to your tenants, keeping in mind that of course the landlords have to pay their rents too, or pay their mortgages too, and we're all going to get through this together. Thanks for listening to me, folks. Rob Gleaner, Robert A. Gleaner PC. Here's my webpage. Go to it, take a look at it. There's a lot of good information, especially information concerning drafting of lease agreements, tenant evictions, habitability disputes, all kinds of good stuff that you can review concerning all of my areas of practice. Stay healthy. We're going to get through all this together.